Nuñez, Juan from PedalsAndEffects.com, and I'm super excited about Jonathan Nuñez from Torche, one of my favorite heavy bands, definitely my favorite heavy band from the last 5 years. I mean, I found them probably like 5 years ago, but he came through PedalsAndEffects.com and gave me some awesome insight, like bridging these two channels on my SVT, which I've never done. So in this upcoming video, we discuss that. We discuss the gear he uses, super bass nerd stuff. So if you're a guitar player who hates learning about bass, you might as well watch another video, because this is for the bass players. Jonathan Nuñez, Juan interviewing him. I love Torche by Torche Records. People know that I typically hate active electronics distorted, because everybody typically have ever heard, it's like what you get at the PA system or out in the audience is that high end that is in active electronics. Yeah, and it just sounds like shitty. Oh, it's just the worst. And so I've never heard a band until you, like I was like, nah. I mean, I actually had an RD artist that is active but has those Moog electronics. And so that always sounded great to me. But other than that, it's like, no, I don't like it. And you come along and I'm like, fuck, this dude just actors, and you get a great distorted sound.
I feel that a lot of people were surprised when they would, cool, man, 8x10, this and that, I got the pedal, whatever. But then they're like, what pickups are they? I'm like, EMG's like, what?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What? And it's kind of funny. I felt when I used to use EMG, I would turn off the fuzz that I was using at the time, and it sounded, I don't know, like adult contemporary tone or something. You know what I mean? It sounded different. And then you turn that shit on, it just got correct. It got gnarly, you know?
Right.
But yeah, so once I met Jared over at Lace, he was super nice and gave me some pickups. And then between touring, recording bands, and all that, unfortunately they sat for a while. And by the time I tried them out, they already had the Manowar line, and he sent me some a jazz set of the Manowars, and those in the electrical, it blew me away. I actually did a test, me and my friend back home, where he had a mini disc recorder hooked to some studio monitors, and he swapped the pickups on the fly, compared the EMGs with a couple, the Lumitones and the Manowars, and for the EGC, the Manowars were the right choice. And it just, so responsive, incredible amount of headroom and detail and just output. I was like, wow. And I actually, for once, I could actually use my tone knob. So it was a great thing, because I can, crank it up and get that shrill, bright sound, or warm it up. And I tend to just have it like, I don't know, I would say about halfway, give or take a little bit, depending on the night, the venue,
Right, of course. And so your head that you're using now is Ampeg.
Yeah. It's, once I went Ampeg with a classic. Well, before that with the 4 Pro.
Right.
I feel I upgraded to the classic.
Right.
And it was a good one. It was a very particular one. Then that, I sold that, and I think I ended up with an acoustic 370 that I found at a music store down south in South Florida. Got it for like $160.
But the one with the EQ, right?
Graphic? Yeah, the graphic EQ, and it had the electrical knobs as well. This thing sounded awesome.
Just not that loud, right?
Yeah, it was plenty loud. Oh, dude, it was burly. You would crank it up.
I didn't think they were loud.
I'm telling you, man, I have good luck with amps.
Cool.
This amp was like a solid state bulldozer. It was like, and you would crank it up. It had this gnarly gain, kind of like a Sun gain.
Nice.
But a little, I don't know. They had like maybe a little like slight dip in the upper mids or something, and that had me satisfied for a while. Fortunately, it was stolen. I bought another one for like $400 or $500. That shit sucked. It wasn't the same.
Got you.
And then we were doing some tour. I was talking to our other sound guy I was on the road with at that time. I was like, man, I need a tube amp. I miss the tube feel, the sound. And we're on tour at the time with High on Fire and Kalasa. Everybody has SVTs, and I'm like, damn, I'm really missing mine right now. I mean, and then we're going up the East Coast, and I got a phone shoved in my face, and it's a listing for a vintage Ampeg SVT for $800. Called the guy immediately, anticipating that he sold the amp, for sure. And it was perfect because it was right by the venue we were playing in Brooklyn. And hit the guy, I was like, yeah, I still have it. You want to come on by? I'm like, yep. I'm like, well, actually, I'll be there tomorrow. I was like, all right, cool. Does this time work for you? Perfect. Right before load-in or something. Showed up, checked it, walked into this guy's studio, and he was using it and had been using it as a coffee table for 2 or 3 years. So it was an SVT on its side with like a round glass, top, and then magazines on top of it. He's like, it's just too loud for the studio, man. I can't use it. I'm like, sounds fine. So I got this thing, threw it on a cab, called my tech back home. He explained how to check if the transformers were shot or not. Because, at that point, you start wondering, what's wrong with this?
Yeah, right, because that's 500-600 or more.
Yeah. I mean, and the tubes alone, the power is like 6 power tubes. It's 2 huge transformers, which, are very critical in this amp. And everything checked out. I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't even bargain with the guy. I was just like, 800 here, like mine, taking it. And then that night, played with it. I'm like, there it is, man. And even better than ever, because it was like a Magnaflox, probably mid 70s. And it was just like breathing and pumping, and it was just real. It was more than real. It was like better than real life. It was like Dream Machine, and I loved it.
They're out there. We were on tour and we were opening up for the Chili Peppers, and we were playing the Boston arena where the Celtics play. Anyway, same thing. Craigslist listing. I couldn't believe it. Like, this dude claims he has. Like he had 2 cabinets that had the covers, then they were on the wheels, the 4 wheels, like the dolly wheels, and he still had the stock covers for him, and he had the head. He said it was original tubes, and I was like, I can't come to you. I go, would you be interested in coming to this show? We're opening up for the Chili Peppers, because I figured, like, you say that, and every dude's gonna go, yeah, I'll come to see that. Yeah. He's like, look, I don't want to come to the show, but I believe you. I'll just drive out to you. Comes out in the truck, in the back. There's the 2 cabinets. There's the head, just like an ad. Wow. Perfect condition, like he never used it. I lift up the cover on the amp. I look in the back, and it's the stock tubes from '71.
That's awesome.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, you don't bargain. I didn't even plug it in. I was just like, this is worth, I think it was $2,100 for the entire 2-speaker head rig.
Yeah.
And that thing sounded great, but of course it blew the head up because it probably should have been tuned up, and then it ended up in storage forever, and then I don't even know where it is anymore. Oh. But it was one of those experiences, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Sometimes you get lucky, man, on the road, and you're, in my case, I was like, I'm not sure what I'm coming home with, but I'll take a risk. I'll take a gamble, This is, I don't want to be a day or 2 or months down the line being like,
oh, it's the worst feeling.
Yeah. So just go for it. Always go for it. And if it's something solid, you can always, sell it, or maybe a friend wants it.
Right. Totally. Totally. I do that with pedals. I do that with basses. All that. I'm always on the search. Every band I've ever been in, like, that's just like Craigslist dudes, Yeah. And you got guys showing up at venues like, who's this dude? Craigslist purchase. And next thing
they already know. My dudes know. Like, if there's some dude standing outside of a venue with an amp or something, like, John, Craigslist guy. Because it's like, dude, you're sitting in a van just.
Yeah.
Wasting away. No, I know.
But
you're just sitting there like, might as well. What's up in X town that I'm gonna be in? The next few days. And
Every time I'm hitting it 2 weeks before, like checking wise. I know where a lot of things are in the United States.
And it's cool. You get used to like patterns and like regionally. You can, if you're up like in the Pennsylvania area, you have a lot of these older companies who are based there. Right. And you get to the middle of the country.
Right. For sure.
And things become more affordable in certain regions, stuff like that.
Yeah. It's funny though, a lot of these bigger stores now are actually doing their Guitar Center, Reverb.com. They get their dudes to go out and buy stuff. Yeah. It's like, it's competitive, but
it's all out there, man. The internet.
Exactly.
It's all, if not, we're sealing the deal right now.
Well, that's like, I've driven a few pedals prices up before for sure. The other thing I was going to talk, if you can look up here, this is something you showed me today. Okay, I've had this VR forever. It's the actual 00002. The 00001 went to the previous Ampeg owner.
Wow.
This guy Ted, and he asked me like, "What do you want us to build?" And I said, "Oh, Blueface would be dope." And then next thing you knew, he's like, "I'm sending you it." What? And so I have two.
That's
this
awesome.
thing sounds awesome. It's made in the USA.
Yeah.
I've always loved the way it sounded, and now I'm in love with it even more because you did this thing with it. So this is something that I've never done on my VR head. Is whatever the hell this is, and you can tell them.
Yeah. So it's basically what we're doing is we're jumping both channels, and whenever I come across an amp that has more than one input, I always experiment doing this because you can dial in one side a certain way, and you know with SVTs you have all these options, and then you can turn that down. EQ this one, independently, then bring back up the volume and then kind of like see how they interact with each other. So, and I like doing this with like basements and anything that has more than one input. So,
because I like as dumb as I am, I would have just naturally thought that once you plug into an input, that kills the other three. I would have thought that,
yeah.
but I know
maybe with certain amps.
But definitely this doesn't do that because once you started, I was like, oh shit! Like I can't believe like I'm freaking 51 years old and I'm just learning this now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have me play bass and let's just do it where it's just this and then you do it and then dudes will be able to. Dudes and chicks and girls and whatever.
All entities of all.
Everybody out there can check out and see what we're doing, and then what I want to do is actually throw a distortion and EQ it, and you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't mind trying where so now this obviously made me think. Well, then that means you could probably run an affected thing here, like a fuzz or whatever, and then run a chorus through here. And
yeah, I can just blend it. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so
Let's try it.